Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Game of Thrones podcast. I am your host, Carmine of RedTeamReview, and I'm joined here once again by Preston Jacobs. Now, today we're going to start doing the Aftershow again. For those of you who are new here, the Aftershow is where we take your questions, comments, or whatever else from the previous episode and discuss them here. As always, we're available on SoundCloud and iTunes, so consider following us on those platforms to get episodes as they're released. And if you do listen to us on iTunes, then please leave us a review. It would help out a lot. And also be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments because we may cover them in the next episode. Okay, so Preston, you've been gone for a while.
Yeah, boom, boom, shakalaka boom. Yeah, no, I was in China. And there's no YouTube in China or Facebook.
Why is that?
Government.
Oh, right.
Government.
Communists, of course.
You know, they think people are going to try to take over and stuff like that. And I think they want to support their own kind of search engines and
they have their own
Facebook. They do. They have their own. They have their own search. They like some Alibaba is like their eBay. They have their own search and they have their own Facebook and they have their own YouTube. Vimeo, I think they use, and they have some other things. But yeah, no YouTube, no Google, no Facebook. They have alternatives over there.
And you were there for like a week, right?
Yeah, like 10 days.
Yeah, so for anybody wondering why we weren't recording, it's or posting the updates, it's because Preston was indisposed in China. So
yeah. I was in Xiamen, which kind of in the south. It's Fujian province. A lot of seafood. Ate a lot of seafood.
Well, by the way, I didn't mention this to you before we started recording, but apparently the day before we recorded the previous episode, they announced a Night Flyers television show, which will be on Sci-Fi Channel. Can't wait to see how they handle the mother-lover aspect of it all.
Yeah, I mean, they can't possibly go with all of that. The movie, I guess, has a bit of that, actually. I think the movie keeps in him being the mother clone, cross-gender mother clone. They change a lot of other stuff. But yeah, that aspect is still in it.
Do you think they'll advertise the host show as like a George R.R. Martin original story, blah, 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 blah?
I'm sure they'll try. Mm-hmm. Though I thought it was I've been hearing that it was on again, off again, like they were thinking about doing it, and then they found out that HBO maybe has all of George R.R. Martin's property.
That would be smart on their part.
And they couldn't do it, so I'm not sure.
Because George Martin is like Stephen King in a sense, where like Stephen King has a bunch of previous stories, and George Martin has like a bunch of previous stories, so they could do their own like George Martin like anthology series.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I don't know what they would do with the series. Like Night Flyers as a story, as a closed concept, But I don't know. We'll see. It must be loosely adapted or something.
Well, HBO does like miniseries all the time, like Band of Brothers. I could see it being like 4 or 5 episodes.
Okay.
Anyways, all right, let's get on to the main event. Okay, so before we begin, you got a lot of flack on the last episode for your comments on Trump. This is just a couple of them. Carmine, please tell Preston to stop insulting Trump or Trump voters every other episode. It's annoying. Yes, we get that he is a liberal, but his team lost, so get over it. One of their comments said, are you that petty you need to shoehorn in Drumpf? No one listens to you for your political crap. These books are supposed to be an escape from this. Anything to say?
I mean, do you really want to know why I hate Trump and Pence? It's people try to argue with me all the time on these politics things, but you have to understand when I was 13 years old, my father got cancer underneath his tonsils, and he had radiation therapy to get rid of it. And the radiation therapy caused a slow degeneration of nerves starting in his shoulders. And after a few years, his shoulders stopped working. And then a few years later, his elbows stopped working. And a few years after that, his hands stopped working. And, my mother had to start dressing him and taking him to the toilet. And after that, his throat stopped working and he couldn't swallow. And eventually, he died. We don't really know exactly of what, because everything was shutting down. I mean, crawling across a floor trying to get to my mother, and she was outside in the garden. And, this is the kind of thing where he could have been helped by stem cell research. And so when I hear about Luddites like Trump and Pence, trying to stop that kind of research and go backward in time. Like Pence tried to have fetus funerals in frickin' Indiana to throw every embryo that's ever been produced into the fire just so that no one could do stem cell research. Mm-hmm. And it's like just knowing that anyone that has, I'm talking like paralysis, any kind of plegia that can be helped by stem cell research, like that's a very, very important issue to me. Like I had to deal with like watching my father slowly not work for over the course of 25 years and eventually die. Mm-hmm. And so when people are like, oh yeah, fucking liberal tears, suck it up. Like, no, like people's lives are really affected by these things. Mm-hmm. Like when people are like, oh, kick them all off Obamacare. No, people's lives are affected by these things. Like people, like it's not just teams, like one team against the other. Like people's lives.
Yeah, like the guy said it here, your team lost.
Like it doesn't work that way. Like this is my life, and these are these things I believe. Like I spent 25 years like watching this. Mm-hmm. Do you think like I'm suddenly going to be like, oh yeah, no, Trump's a great guy? No, he's a piece of shit. Mike Pence is a piece of shit. Like I can never not believe that. No,
I understand. Let me just say, Jesus, man, I'm gonna have to cut some of that. I hope you don't mind.
No. I mean, I understand that it's a downer, but this is like, this is who I am.
No, that's fine. And
so let's go on to
well no, to his comment, I get it. They have a point, but at the same time, you just said like one little thing. It'd be a different story if you devoted an entire 10 minutes to ranting about why he sucked.
No, I mean it's all fine, like, but I don't think a lot of people have had life experiences where they actually like deal with these sorts of things on a day-to-day basis, mm-hmm. and how public policy can affect people's lives. Like if you're gay and you want to be married and the vice president believes that you can have that prayed away. Like those there are real people out there whose real happiness like is dependent on things, and it's not just a suck it up liberal tears, fucking libtard cuck. Like no, like sorry, we actually like have lives that are affected by these things, and our happiness depends on these things. So that's that.
Should I keep that in?
Sorry to dump that intensity. Yeah, keep it in.
Are you sure? Because like that.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, so let's get into this. Okay, so the first question I chose for us to discuss is an interesting question. It has to do with what's going on lately in the U.S. these past few weeks. And I wanted your thoughts on this. This is from Patreon. Ellie asked me, Carmine, what would you and Preston do if it came out that Dave and Dan, showrunners of the HBO Game of Thrones show, were also sexually harassing women? I kind of know of what Preston would do because he is a feminist, but I know you're kind of against feminism. Not really true, but would you stop watching the show? It's funny that she says she would know what you would do because I don't know what you would do, but do you mind if I go ahead on this one first?
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think I would do?
No, I don't know what you would do, but I know what I would do.
What would you
I would continue watching the show. I mean, I hope HBO would step in and fire them, or something is done. Hopefully, the people that they did sexually harass would get some sense of justice. But I'm sorry, I've been on this train for almost 8 years now, and I kind of want to finish it. I mean. Yeah, and I'll tell you why also. It's because, Dave and Dan, they're running the show, but at the same time, they're not the only person making the show. There's a lot of people under them, the guy who mops up the fake blood, camera guy who makes swords. If we stop supporting the show because of these two assholes, then those guys are probably out of a job.
I mean, it's see, I'm going to surprise people. I really separate art from the creator. Mm-hmm. Like, and so like it doesn't, I can still enjoy a piece of art even knowing that the creator of the piece of art is a piece of shit. Like I understand that like Annie Hall is a fantastic movie. Woody Allen is a piece of shit. Like I can kind of make that separation. Mm-hmm. Like Thomas Jefferson had, took advantage of and had sex with 16-year-old slaves. Horrible. Same time, really great writer, founder of the country. So it's tough because we're all not perfect. Mm-hmm. And I think if you look hard on anybody, you're going to find that everybody's horrible in their own way. It's tough to, like, Louis C.K., horrible guy.
I love his comedy.
Masturbating in front of people. So fucking funny. So funny. It's tough. It's tough to know that Roman Polanski did the things he did, like rape. Led Zeppelin and their frickin' rape.
Led Zeppelin? I wasn't aware of this one.
Oh my God! They had like these 13-year-old groupies that they kept as slaves. Like, it's
really, I did
shit.
not know
like,
this.
Oh my God! Like, yeah, Marky Mark killed someone. Like, it's like all this shit. I know. Or he beat some Asian dude up to a pulp or something. Ah, God, there's all this horrible stuff.
Fucking hate. Well, wow, Mark Wahlberg's an asshole, but I loved him in The Departed. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, even Martin Luther King, like, cheated on his wife and was a womanizer. But at the same time, like,
well, he was the king.
Incredible. Yeah, I mean, incredible writer and things that revolutionized America and changed it so much for the better. But if you take any human being and you can find a bad part of them, so.
Well, let me throw you a curveball question, and I throw this at the audience as well, because I'm curious to see what they have to say. Would you be inclined to pre-order or pick up the next book, Winds of Winter, if it came out that George R.R. Martin was accused of sexual harassment? Now everybody loves saying, I was shocked that Louis C.K. Now, I would be shocked if George Martin, if it came out that he was a sexual harasser. Would you be inclined to pre-order Winds of Winter or even pick it up or read it?
Oh, I mean, I'm pretty pot committed at this point. I don't think I think he could probably murder people, and I might still be. Here's the other thing I think about. Like, we all like to think of ourselves as moral, but at the same time, we're not put in those situations. Like, if we had that power, would we be corrupted by it? Like,
yes.
Would we become, Would you start walking in and masturbating in front of women and things?
I'm so self-conscious about my small cock that I wouldn't even think of it. But you got to be pretty ballsy to do that. I mean, or pretty fucked up. Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever do that. But I do wonder about if you had just absolutely beautiful women throwing themselves at you if you do things that you wouldn't normally do and things like that. Oscar Wilde once said, the old can't be faithless and the young can't be faithful. And it was a funny thing. Like, old people like to think that they're all really moral, but at the same time, they don't have the opportunities to be immoral that other people do. So, it's a funny thing. So I don't know. If we would be corrupted by the power? I don't know.
Of course we would be corrupted by the power. It takes a special kind of douchebag not to be corrupted. But I'll say this: like, for me, would I pre-order it? I would probably pirate it. Now I've been pirating close to almost a decade now. I was here for Demonoid back when that was awesome. Mini Nova, Kick-Ass Torrents, ISO Hunt. Oh, yeah. And I probably wouldn't support George or the publishing company, but I would probably pirate it because it would still come out, of course.
Yeah. See, I'm old enough to know, like Share Bear and Napster, like that.
Kazaa. I was there for that too. Back in the day when you had to give your computer AIDS to download the newest InSync. I was there for that.
Oh yeah.
Kazaa, Mesh, Livewire, whatever the fuck it was called.
Yeah, I mean, is Pirate Bay still up?
Yeah, of course. Don't fucking ask that question. Look at you, trying to be all naive. You know fully well that it's still up and running. Don't even try. But no, I would pirate the next Winds of Winter because I wouldn't want to support him. Like 10 years ago when I started pirating, I did so because I was in high school. I didn't have the money to go spend out on the next Lord of the Rings trilogy that came out. Now that I'm 26. I have the Lord of the Rings trilogy on my shelf. Even though I pirated it almost 10 years ago, I still went out and showed my support and bought the Blu-ray. Same with Game of Thrones. That's why HBO lets everybody pirate everything. Because you have two choices. You can pay the $15 a month to watch it on the website, or you can go to your friend's house or pirate it or whatever and watch it some other way. Regardless, they still want people watching Game of Thrones because they know for a fact that people will like it and go out and do what I do. Like, I'm wearing a Winter is Coming t-shirt. This was $15. I have seasons 1 through 5 on Blu-ray. They're $45 a pop.
Winter's the name of your boyfriend, right?
Fuck you! Preston's snappy today. He's snappy today. By the way, in the previous episode, you told me about Tyrion being a time traveling fetus, and user the Ka89 wants you to go into that a little. So tell me and him about this theory. I'm assuming is what it is.
D&D plus T. I've looked up this theory. Essentially, it's based on the idea that somehow that Tyrion is a stand-in for Oedipus, and that eventually his future is going to be to marry Dany and have sex with Dany, and so it's kind of backwards. Like it needed somehow Dany to be his mother, and so the idea is that somehow Rhaego didn't actually die, but he was sent back in time into Joanna Lannister's womb.
Wait a minute.
And,
so Khal Drogo and Daenerys' child Rhaego is what you're talking about. Is Tyrion.
Yeah. Right.
What the fuck?
Right. And that he got sent back in time into Joanna Lannister's womb, and he was born, and so he's the stallion that mounts the world, and he's going to marry Dany and fulfill the Oedipus incest aspect to it. Now, what's funny is when this guy came out with this theory, and it's pretty crazy and not very serious, but I will say that weirdly, George R.R. Martin has another story about a time traveling Tyrion.
Yeah, you discussed this in one of the previous episodes. Isn't it something about Ireland or Scotland?
Like Finland.
I was close.
Yes, it's Sweden, Finland kind of thing. But yeah, it's
about how the Russians invade.
Right, but it's about this time traveling dwarf that goes back in time, and like his soul, his spirit is put into another guy. I mean, it's much in the same way as Bran going back and fucking up Hodor. George R. R. Martin works on when he does time travel, and he has like 3 stories on time travel, but they're always about sending consciousness back in time, not sending a physical body.
Would sending someone's conscious back in time be easier than sending the whole body?
Well, he likes the idea because he believes like physical objects create paradoxes, but if you have the consciousness is like, very effervescent, ethereal, like not having mass, and therefore like all of the paradoxes would somehow be solved. Like the big paradox is like the grandfather paradox, where if you go back in time and you kill your grandfather, how are you going to be born, right? Mm-hmm. Well, George R. R. Martin's solution is, well, if you send your consciousness back to Todd, and Todd kills your grandfather, there's no paradox because Todd did it. Even though it's your consciousness, when looking at the timeline, it's Todd doing it, and therefore you didn't kill your grandfather, and you'd cease to exist because your grandfather died. So this is his big solution to time travel paradoxes, is to send consciousness back in time, and consciousness doesn't have mass, according to George R. R. Martin.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the D&D equals T theory actually, I think, sends a physical fetus back in time, but really it would be more George R. R. Martin if Tyrion's soul, Rhaego's soul, Tyrion's soul, was put back in time and put into the dwarf, and that it's his soul having sex with Dany, and thus having kind of a weird incest that way. But that's the time traveling fetus thing. It's mostly a joke, but when people talk about the craziest theories out there, everybody always picks D&D plus T. D&D equals T. Yeah. As the craziest time traveling fetuses. So a lot of people have asked, what's the point of the Black Gate? Like, how do you, like, why is the Black Gate there?
Now, for those of you who don't know, the Black Gate, explain which Black Gate you're talking, because people will think you're talking about Lord of the Rings.
Or Ultima. I don't know if you ever played Ultima.
I have not.
But the seventh, it was incredible. The seventh installment of Ultima was called the Black Gate. Mm-hmm. Or it was pretty great. But the Black Gate is the large weirwood face underneath the Night Fort that Sam and Gilly go through to come into the Night Fort. And there's the question of like why is that gate there, and what is it supposed to be? Do you remember this part of the book of A Storm of Swords?
Is that the part where like Bran and Mira meet up with Sam?
Yeah, that's where like they run into each other. Mm-hmm. And there's like a weirwood growing inside. I've actually done a video where I do touch on where I think what I think the Black Gate is.
We'll go into it now. Like what's going on with that Black Gate?
Well, I think that the Black Gate, we only know about the Night Fort with regard to Queen Alysanne. And Queen Alysanne essentially is the one that flew north, was impressed by the Night's Watch, and doubled the size of the gift. And she stayed at Queen's Crown Tower, and that's the tower in which Bran wargs hodor while Jon is down fighting the wildlings and breaks up with Ygritte and jumps on his horse and rides away. So like the whole story about Alysanne is that, there's that tower she stayed at where she meets the small folk. And then she goes to the Night Fort, is impressed with it, and then she doubles the size of the gift. But then she also closes down the Night Fort. And so that's kind of the three things we kind of know about her. So I think that she didn't like something she saw at the Night Fort. And I think that thing was the Black Gate. We kind of know that way back, the 13th commander of the Night's Watch was sacrificing there. And so I think there's a sacrificial element to the Black Gate. And my guess is that one other thing that Alysanne did is she ended the Lord's right to the first night. That's where the Lord is allowed to have sex with the wives of his subjects. And so my theory is she didn't like that. But that act, Lord's right of the first night, was creating bastards. And I imagine that people were giving bastards as sacrifices at the Night Fort, and they're getting put into the Black Gate, and they're being given to the others, much in the same way that Craster was giving babies to the others. And that she kind of just put a stop to everything. She said, okay, no more bastards, because we're going to end first Lord's right to the first night. We're going to double the size of the gift to punish the Umbers and the Mountain Folk for participating in that. And we're going to close down the Night Fort, which is where everybody was sacrificing. So that's kind of what I think the Black Gate was for. I think it was for giving babies to the others, just like Craster was.
Could the Night Fort have come before the rest of the Wall or even the other castles?
Well, there is, a lot of people have said that perhaps the Night Fort predates the Wall, which is an interesting idea. People look into the architecture of the Night Fort and it being pretty advanced and having domes and things. So it'll be interesting. Maybe something else is going on. We know so very little of the history back then, and the history we do know could be wrong because no one was writing anything down. So it's all just rumor. The
Night Fort was the 13th Lord Commander. That was his personal castle, right?
Yes, he decided to become a king, and then became the Night King, and so the King of the Wildlings and the King in Winterfell teamed up and fought him.
Do you think when the Night King, when he finally starts marching down towards the Wall, do you think that's the castle he'll go towards? Because in the show, he goes to Eastwatch by the Sea. Do you think the Night Fort is still his in a way?
I mean, do you think there'll be a Night King in the book?
I don't see why not. I mean, we don't really have any evidence of him, do we?
No.
Yeah,
we don't have
like that's
anything.
something the show set itself apart, right? Because like in the books, I know for a fact that the Night King is just stories by Old Nan, and
Yeah.
in the show goes out of its way to give us a real like major antagonist, because we always have like these
Yeah.
random characters who kind of are douchey but not really the main antagonist of the story, which I understand, television and all that. But I don't know, like if there has to be someone leading the White Walkers. They can't just be a random entity, nature controlled force that just does what it does just because it's nature, it's animalistic, it's
I mean,
primal.
they could be. That's the question. Is like, okay, do they even have a king? Do the others have a king? They might be hive minded. I mean, they might be. They might have no king. The show kind of made it easy. Like, well, if we want everybody to win, all they have to do is kill the Night King, and then all of the whites are gonna collapse to the ground. Like Anakin blowing up the control ship and all the droids falling. Like or God, I mean everybody does it these days. Like the blowing up the ship in the Avengers and having all of the robots fall, or like why that has to happen. Everything's nice and clean in entertainment these days. You just hit that one thing and everything falls apart.
That's why they removed Anguy from the story, even though we never saw him die or anything.
Because you're right, like shooting one arrow. Did I already talked to you about the kobold defeating the 25th level wizard?
I think you did.
Yeah, like the idea is that a kobold's longbow has a longer range than most wizards' like spell ranges, so he can just shoot him. So same with Anguy. Anguy takes out the Night King. The end. Oh,
but
whole thing was anticlimactic.
I don't want to go back to season 7, and I haven't seen your fixing season 7 thing on purpose, so you can tell me. Yeah, I haven't seen it on purpose, so I want you to to tell me what you would change, so we can go back and forth with that. But they could have made it very interesting, because Anguy could have been I hate going back to season 7 and doing this again, but Anguy could have been the trump card, and as soon as he dies and goes down, which is what I would have done if I was writing the whole thing, everybody starts to panic because he was the trump card and now we have nothing. Like, have you seen Suicide Squad?
Yes.
I never understood the reason why Katana was on the mission, because if her sword steals the souls of everything it stabs and shit, then she should have been the trump card of the entire movie. She was going to be the one that traps the enchantress in the sword, but that was never a thing. She was just there because she has Rick Flags' back. It just feels like it really is a missed opportunity not to have Anguy there.
Are you trying to say there are flaws with Suicide Squad? How dare you, sir?
It's probably the worst DC movie of all fucking time.
It's a really bad movie. I'm really even going in knowing all of everybody's stories, oh, it's so bad. I watched it myself and then I was like, yeah, no, it really is just a hot mess. Oh,
Suicide Squad is one of those movies where it would have been much better if it was a 13 episode thing.
Maybe they needed a lot more time to develop each and every one of those characters.
Where every character has their own flashback an episode, like Orange is the New Black.
Yeah. They also needed Will Smith to not be Deathstroke. Deathstroke is the least interesting character.
You mean Deadshot?
They need Deadshot, whatever. See, they're so boring that I blend them together. But yeah, no, Deadshot was the most boring character, and he, but it's Will Smith, so they're like, well, we gotta give him the big.
We
role.
paid him $20 million. We're gonna make sure we get as much out of him as we can. Okay, so Preston, I got the next question here, and it is from Wismut3, and he asks, "What's your guys' favorite underrated scene?" Now we discussed this just now, a while ago, before we started recording again.
Yeah.
And do you want me to go first, or you got yours?
Sure, you go first.
All right. So he's not really specific here, whether it's book or show, so I just do both. My favorite book scene, I was telling you about it, was it Feast or Dance, where Jaime goes into Edmure Tully's tent and just talks shit to him?
Oh, that's the end of Feast, yeah.
That's the end of Feast. I love that scene. I feel like nobody really talks about that scene, but he goes in there and he talks shit to Edmure Tully, and Edmure gets so mad that he goes, Kingslayer, I'm gonna get up from here and I'm gonna kill you. And Jaime's like, you know what, you may try, but how about this? Hey, singer, sing Edmure a song while he eats. I'm sure he knows the one. Ah, love that scene. It made Jaime such a badass in my eyes and made me love him. And,
but at the same time, the singer is from the Brotherhood Without Banners. So at the same time, it like you're like, oh crap, like Jaime just got played as well. Like there's this, like the Brotherhood Without Banners is infiltrating this situation and he has no idea, you know.
I love how the singer goes, is it the one with the reins?
I think he has them sing is it the Floppy Fish song? Yeah, it's the Floppy Fish song.
And my favorite show scene is the one where Stannis is talking to Jon and he goes, put your sword at my feet, kneel before me, and you'll rise again as Jon Stark, Lord of Winterfell. I love that scene, and the song really makes it. Like, I know a lot of people get on the show's case a lot, especially you, but you got to admit, one of the best parts about the show is the soundtrack. The soundtrack is absolutely fantastic.
It's brilliant. Yeah, it's brilliant. The let me think. Like, so for the show, I mean, I've there's certain scenes that I've talked up before, so it's no surprise. Like, I think that the show's scene of Theon complaining about how horrible it was. This right before Ramsay, actually it's the show. So right before the Ironborn turn on him, and Maester Luwin is telling him to take the black, Theon does a speech about how you know, do you understand what it's like to be told that you should be grateful for being a hostage and all this stuff, and it's such a well acted scene. But I've talked about how much I love that scene before.
Well, that scene isn't spoken about much, and I was surprised when you said this, because you said this back during the season 7 reviews. You said that scene actually adds to what we saw in the books.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where I think the show improved on the books. I mean, I'm a big fan of, and it's funny because we're talking about Jaime and Edmure. Like, I'm a big fan actually of the season 6 scene between Jaime and Edmure, where he kind of says, you know, I'm only worried about, I only care about getting back to Cersei. I think that was really well done. Now for like some book scenes that I think that I love that people don't talk about, I really love Asha's long march towards Winterfell and the interaction between the southern lords and the mountain clans, or the hill clans, the northern ones, not the Vale ones. They have some great interaction about, you know, war and their perspective on everything. And there's this incredible speech where one of the northern mountain clan guy says, you know, oh, I want to live forever. You know, isn't that great? You know, like sarcastically, you know, he's like, they're like, oh, do you want to die? And he's like, no, I want to live forever. You know, so there's some, I really enjoy that whole, that's my favorite aspect of Dance is the Theon sitting there awaiting Stannis coming and Asha being part of Stannis's march, and those two plots slowly coming together. I'm a big fan of that, and so I think the Asha, the later Asha chapters, like once she's captured and she's getting chatted up by, you know, Justin Massey and stuff like that. I think those are really great, fun chapters, even though they're so dreary. And yeah, people don't talk them up that much. Like that, you know, when I hear of people's favorite chapters, they tend to talk about like the Broken Man speech from the Brienne story, or the King's Moot, or, you know, things like that.
They almost had the Broken Man speech in the show, almost.
Yeah. A lot of people talk about, you know, how incredible the Battle of the Blackwater is, and these are kind of, you know, the famous ones that fans really love. But yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of that, of the Asha chapters as well, and no one ever talks about the Asha chapters, but I think they're done pretty well.
You spoke plenty about the Asha chapters in the last video.
The Wayward Bride. I mean, the Wayward Bride. Yeah, it's.
I'm gonna have you do all the cringy sex scenes. I'm gonna have you do the reading. All
Eventually,
the
yeah.
We're gonna play Preston's Sexy Time compilation video where you put all the cringy, where you read out all the cringy sex scenes. But this actually ties into our next question. Someone said, 2 characters in the books whose chapter you're looking forward to the most for Winds of Winter. I think I already know Preston's answer, but Carmine doesn't really talk about the books that much. Want to hear his answer the most as well. For me, I really want to see what happens with Davos, because the last time we see Davos, correct me if I'm wrong, he has a mission from Manderley to go get Rickham back.
Yeah.
And we don't really see Skagos, I believe that's what it's called, Skagos.
Right.
We don't really see that in the show, so I'm curious to see like what's going on there. And the other person I'm really interested in seeing what happens to next is Euron. Euron, I feel like, is like one of the sleeper characters in the books who comes out of nowhere and just turns everything upside down. And I was gonna ask you, like, because I was trying to find the Forsaken chapter where he has like Valyrian steel armor.
Yeah.
Go into like Valyrian, like I don't think we've seen that before.
No, we haven't. And actually, he Aaron makes a big deal of it, actually. Yeah, I mean, I would say that the chapters I'm most looking forward to are Samwell and another Aaron chapter. I think the Forsaken chapter is really, really excellent. I would say it's top 5 chapters of the book. Some people's favorite now.
In general, like all the books so far?
Yeah. I mean, if I had to list my like favorite chapters, I would say like the last Daenerys chapter of A Game of Thrones. I think the Kingsmoot, which is the Drowned Man chapter, is really incredible. I think Cersei 4, A Feast for Crows is brilliant. That's the Small Council, Cersei's Small Council, and it's so funny and really well done. But yeah, when the Forsaken chapter came out and we all listened to it, it was just, I mean, we just, everyone's jaws had just dropped.
That was the one where you had the breakfast with George R.R. Martin. He read it.
Well, he didn't read it at the breakfast, but it was the same weekend where we went to Balticon, and he had a reading, and so we go into the reading, and I was a bit of a dickhead, so this voting came out where he's like I'm gonna have, you guys choose which one I'm gonna read. So he's like I've got a passage about Maegor and Aenys, the 2 brother Targaryens. That I can read that, or I can read the Mercy chapter, and then people kind of like clap or cheer after each one, and then he's like, or I can read this chapter from the Damp Hair, and I scream out, Aeron King! And I'd befriended this woman, and she yells it out too, Aeron King! And then we both start chanting, Aeron King, as if it's the Kingsmoot, Aeron King! And we got a good, like 100 people to start chanting, but I think like George looked kind of annoyed on stage, and he's like, well, don't, he's like, let other people like, vote on stuff, like, like he didn't like this huge chant that I thought it was hilarious that it was like that we'd made it into the Kingsmoot, but he seemed pretty annoyed by it. But yeah, he read it, and it was it's a pretty awesome chapter. I've done a lot of work on analysis of it. I did a Prepping for Winter series, so if you Google Prepping for Winter, it'll pop up, and I have a link to.
Is that true?
To the Forsaken chapter in there.
Prepping for Winter. Hold on, let me just put Game of Thrones in here. There it is. Holy shit, you'd fucking dominate it. I put Prepping for Winter, ASOIF. You fucking dominate. Oh wow, you dominate the entire search result. Good shit, man.
Yeah. So you can do that. I go line by line with the Prepping for Winter, analyzing it, and actually with Aaron's chapter there, it's kind of needed. George R.R. Martin is making a ton of biblical references through there, but also he's making a ton of allusions to Bran, Arya, and Dany, like constantly. Nearly every line is like
what happens in
referring
the
to
Forsaken?
something.
Like walk us through it.
So the Forsaken, so all the Winds of Winter chapters so far really are the characters are kind of places we didn't expect them to be. Like Sansa is they're about to have a tourney, which we're not expecting, or like Arya is at a play in Mercy, or Ariana is trekking across the Stormlands. Like all these things we couldn't have guessed. And so the last time we saw Aeron, he was at the Kingsmoot, and in A Dance with Dragons, Asha thinks about Aeron, and they all assume that he's gone underground and is leading a resistance on the Iron Islands. And so that's where we kind of thought Aeron was all of this time, but it turns out we were wrong. That actually this entire time Euron had captured him shortly after the Kingsmoot, and it follows the chapter actually follows several months. So it's much like the third Bran chapter in that it takes place over many months, which is a rarity. I'm trying to think of any other chapters or
Many
like
months
that besides...
after Dance of Dragons?
Yes. It takes place, if you remember, the Kingsmoot happens fairly early in A Feast for Crows, and fairly early timeline wise. Like it happens, the Kingsmoot is happening contemporary with some events at the end of A Storm of Swords. And so the Aeron chapter, the Forsaken chapter covers like events all the way from the end of the Kingsmoot all the way to a couple months, probably a month after the Dance with Dragons epilogue. Yeah. Because in the Dance with Dragons epilogue, the Red Wine Fleet is only rounding Dorne, and now the Red Wine Fleet has made it to Old Town. And so we're way past so we cover all of this time with Aeron in that chapter. So he's been captured by Euron, and he's getting tortured. He's first on the Shield Islands, and so you get events that are happening contemporary with the Reaver chapter, and then they make it to Old Town, and it's following up on a lot of the events that Sam saw in Samwell 5. And so you're getting all of this period of time. But he's getting tortured in it, and there's various torture. I don't want to spoil the whole thing for you if you haven't read it, but
no, I think I heard you talk about it once, but that was ages ago. I was trying to find it, I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I mean it's just a excellent chapter where so much it's the way it's written is horrific and detailed.
We'll go into it. Spoiler alert, by the way, for everybody. If you don't want to, spoiler alert. Go into it really quick.
Well, you find out that like Bran at the end of A Clash of Kings, where he's been kept in the dark in the Winterfell crypts, like Aeron is getting kept in the dark in the dungeon. And we go into and we have a lot of characters that have been in dungeons over the course of our story. Jaime, Davos many times, Ned. But and so you get you're getting these callbacks to those characters. But he's getting tortured, and then Euron comes down with Shade of the Evening, the drink that Dany drank in the House of the Undying, and he force feeds Aeron Shade of the Evening, and so Aeron ends up having these visions of things that are going to happen next, like he sees bloody water and burning Greyjoy ships and things like this, and then he's then visited by Felia Flowers, who is Euron's girlfriend from the Reaver chapter, and she comes down and starts telling stories about what's been going on, and then Euron visits them again, and he force feeds him Shade of the Evening. You also learn about Aeron's backstory. You learn that he was actually molested by Euron. and this is a big thing. Which, because if you remember the Aeron story, he kept hearing this rusted hinge, and everyone's like, "What does that rusted hinge mean?" Well, the rusted hinge was what he heard when Euron would come in and molest him, and so he has more visions of a woman, a white fire woman, and all of these dead gods, and then after all of this torture and these multiple visions, then the warlocks are brought in with him, along with like a Faith of the Seven priest and a red priest, and Euron's just confused, like, what's going on here? And then Euron orders that they're all pulled out, and they're in the arbor, and they're preparing for their battle with the Red Wine Fleet, and Euron has Aeron strapped to the bow of the Silence along with Philea Flowers, and they go off to war, like with him with this vision of like this scene of Aeron strapped to the prow of the Silence, Euron wearing a Valyrian steel armor, and everyone going off into battle, and this just like it's just the craziest kind of setup and scene. It's brilliant.
Wait, where did he get the
shade of the evening?
There you go. Where did he get that from?
Well, in the Reaver chapter, Euron claims that outside of Karth, he came upon a warlocks on a ship. That he came upon 4 of them, and we know that's Pyat Pree. At least one of them was Pyat Pree, because also we hear about when Xaro goes to visit Dany, he mentions that, oh yeah, Pyat Pree and 3 other warlocks like left Karth like seeking revenge on you. So Euron apparently captured them, and we don't know what happened to the other 2 warlocks. He said that he can't, like, Euron claims in the Reaver chapter that he chopped up one of the warlocks and fed him to the other 2. So we don't know where the 4th one is. And one of the warlocks, for some reason, is saying the name Pree over and over again. We don't know why, if that is Pree, or if he's trying to say something to Pyat Pree, or we don't know. But so he got the Shade of the Evening from the warlock ship, and so he's been drinking Shade of the Evening and getting these visions. Shade of the Evening is the psychotropic drug that enhances your telepathic ability, and allows you to have visions, much like weirwood paste, what Bran eats, when he's with Bloodraven in the weirwood. And so Euron's been drinking this stuff. He tries to get Victarion to drink it in the Reaver chapter, but yeah, he force feeds it to Aeron a couple times, and so Aeron has a bunch of visions.
What's the point in forcing it on Aeron, though?
Well, this is the big question, right? And so my theory is that Aeron has telepathic abilities like Bran, and that Euron is training Aeron in the same way as Bloodraven is training Bran. So he's putting him through similar experiences. So if you think about what Bloodraven did to Bran, right? Bran was having dreams. Bloodraven was sending him dreams. Aeron has been experiencing dreams. Perhaps Euron was the one, that caused that. We don't know. So, but then Bran was put in the dark, and when he was in the dark, is when his third eye opened. This is what Bran says at the end of Clash of Kings, that the sensory deprivation caused his other senses to come alive, and so now Aeron has been put in the dark. And then Bran, when he gets to the weirwood, is given psychotropic drugs to enhance his telepathic abilities, much like Dany was also given Shade of the Evening, and Arya is given a scented candle at the House of Black and White. But we know that these 3 psychotropic drugs are similar: weirwood paste, the scented candle, and Shade of the Evening, because of how the characters describe the sensation. Like, it's shifting sensation. Like when Dany drinks it, she thinks it tastes like rancid meat, and then Drogo's cum. And when Bran drinks it,
wait, what was that last part?
She thinks it tastes like Drogo's cum for a second. I'm not making that up.
I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna have you read that chapter. But continue.
Yeah. And when Bran drinks it, he thinks it tastes, like
Drogo's cum. That's fucking weird. What the fuck?
Yeah. And when Bran drinks it, he thinks it tastes like a kiss from Catelyn, which, maybe that tastes exactly the same as Drogo's cum. I don't know. A bunch of other things, and when Arya smells it, she thinks it smells like Winterfell and all these different things, and the shifting flavors, shifting scents, shifting experiences. And so when Aeron drinks Shade of the Evening, the same thing happens. It's sour and bitter and sweet and Shade of the Evening. But we kind of know that Werewood Paste, Shade of the Evening, and Scented Candles are the same thing, and in what they do. They seem to expand, open somebody's mind, enhance it telepathically or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's going. Yeah. So all of all of these experiences are being given to Aeron as if he's getting trained for something.
So what does this Euron chapter really mean for the future of the books and the future of the Iron Islands and the whole battle of what did you call it? Battle of Steel?
That's the Battle of Blood. The Battle of Blood down in Old Town. So I just did a video on this, but the Battle of Blood is so we've got at least 4 major battles. There might be more, but we have at least 4 major battles that are going to happen in the Winds of Winter. Mm-hmm. We've got the Battle of Ice with Stannis. We've got the Battle of Steel with Jon Connington. We have the Battle of Fire with Barristan and Tyrion and such. And then we have the Battle of Blood with Aeron and Euron, and maybe Sam is going to, see stuff. We don't know. But yeah, it's the Battle of Blood because I theorize that Euron is going to be putting blood in the water in order to attract krakens.
No way. Really? Krakens,
yeah,
not sharks?
No, I mean, maybe sharks, but I think that we have a lot of people having visions over the past couple books of bloody water. Melisandre has a vision of bloody water. Makoro has a vision of bloody water, and Aeron has a vision of bloody water. And we have in the Ariana sample chapter, we have a maester claiming that bloody water, draws krakens. So, I think that Aeron is going to be, he's been collecting bodies and sacrificing people. I think he's been taking their blood, and that he's going to, much in the same way in the Battle of the Blackwater, there was wildfire hidden in a big ship. Mm-hmm. He's going to have blood hidden in a big ship.
And you think he's going to lure out actual giant krakens to come in and
destroy the Red One fleet? Yeah, that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
Damn, that'll be fucking awesome! Holy shit!
You need to watch my Battle of... I spent a lot of time on this Battle of Blood video.
I'm gonna watch it, but to be honest, I would rather you explain it to me instead of me watching it, because that way, like, people who haven't seen the video can also have it explained to them. You know what like your fixing season 7 video, which we will get to very soon.
I'll have to rewatch my fixing if we're going to talk about that. I'll have to rewatch
it. What are you talking about? You're the one who made it. What are you talking about?
I know, but that was a month ago.
Speaking of videos you've made, someone asked us both, what's the worst video you guys have ever made? Like, what do we think is the worst videos we've ever made? And I already have mine all lined up too. I didn't have to think long and hard about this one. This one was cringy when I went back to watch it. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first on this one?
Yeah, no, please go first.
This is one of the first few... I'm going to private the shit out of it so no one can see it. This is one of the first few videos I've ever done comparing book and show, because this was shortly after Season 3, The Red Wedding. And I hated how they did The Red Wedding in the show, because in the books, they nailed it perfectly. If you'll recall, The Red Wedding in the books has, like, the Northern Lords fighting back. Grey Wind manages to take out a guy. I think Robb even like someone. I think it's Great John who shields Robb from like bolts of arrows.
Yeah.
And what else? I absolutely hated the Lannister send their regard. Like I hated that. I really love Jaime Lannister sends his regard because it's such a big fuck you to Robb for letting Jaime escape.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I just that video, like the differences between book and show Red Wedding, I think the book did it perfectly. The way Catelyn goes out, the Northern Lords fighting back, they don't look like punks, because in the show, like, they all get slaughtered immediately, none of them even try. Grey Wind actually does something, you know?
Yeah.
So that video, I think, is one of my worst. One of the worst I've done. Now I gotta go private the shit out of it. But what do you think is your worst video?
I mean, I don't. It's funny, like thinking about my older videos, because some people really prefer my older stuff.
Really?
Because I go faster and I take bigger leaps. I think like over time, because like in the beginning everyone's like Preston Jacobs so tinfoil. I think because of that, like I was more like now I go slower and I explain stuff more because I'm like, I don't want anyone accusing me of jumping to a conclusion. So in my early ones, I make these big jumps, and I don't necessarily think the jumps are wrong, but I just like assume something, you know, and I just keep going. Obviously those early ones, that my sound quality is so bad, and you can hear me like clicking the space bar to like stop the recording and all these different things. And so like quality wise, I'm just like, oh man, that's just crap.
But I don't think you can really like go with quality, because like I don't know, I feel like a lot of us when we first start out, our microphones are shit. Like I've said so many times, and I am gonna do it. Like some of my earlier videos are so fucking lame because I use like Windows Movie Maker and shit. Like this was back in 2014.
Yeah.
Windows Movie Maker, like a headset microphone. It was just so bad. I kind of question, to be honest, people who make their first YouTube videos and they already have like a professional sound system all ready to go. Like, well, we all know your fucking intentions. Not doing it for fun, are you, asshole? But you can't really. I think that's a cop out by saying some of your worst are, you know, low quality. If you don't think you have like a worse video, that's completely fine. It doesn't mean you're egotistical.
No. I mean, that's the thing is like I do cringe when I watch them because of the quality, but then I'm like, but at the same time, like they're like some of those early ones are like what made my channel, and like and some people love them, like you know, and so it's weird. It's weird to like go back and be like watch the Dornish Master Plan, which is like I wouldn't have a channel without the Dornish Master Plan, but still when I watch it I'm like, I wouldn't have said that. I wouldn't have made that jump, or like, I wish I just had better quality.
Well, why don't you re-release it?
I guess I could.
Re-release it. So what?
But it's like the time you put into a re-release, you can make a new one, a shiny new video. So it's tough to say. But no, I mean, if anything, like I look back on those old videos and they're still my children. I still love them in each way, you know, a little bit. I guess my most cringe is probably like my season 5 watch, and that's when I was just exploring with the new characters and like trying to figure out what I wanted to do on making fun of the show, and you know, they were done faster and not with the same sort of like time that I do the newer ones, like season 7. Like the difference between season 5 watch and season 7 watch is enormous. But like I look back at those ones and I'm just like, it just looks so lazy. It's not lazy. I was putting a lot of time into them, but I didn't know how to do all of the work and stuff. So, yeah, I mean, those are, I guess like the ones I'm most embarrassed of would be like season 5 watch.
And to wrap up this after show, someone asked us, I always forget, I need to start jotting people's names down, I do apologize. The worst thing season 8 could do that'll ruin the season or the entire series for you. You want me to go first, or you got this?
Yeah, no, go for it.
I would fucking hate if everybody, after they defeat all the White Walkers and stuff, if everybody learned their lesson. which is, to work together and democracy and all that. I would fucking hate that. Because the whole shtick about Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire is while we're too busy squabbling over petty shit, the real danger is coming and we're not seeing it. I would think it's incredibly bittersweet, and I would love it if after everything is said and done, everybody just goes back to doing exactly what they were doing before. Nobody learns their lesson. Everything is still crap. Everything is still awful, and yeah.
Okay. All right. What will ruin this? What will ruin the series for me is killing the Night King and having all of the whites collapse. That would just be like, you lazy motherfuckers.
Really?
Like,
you don't want that Star Wars Battle of Naboo?
The end of Avengers, yes. No, I mean, that would just be so dumb. The thing is, I totally think they're actually going to do it.
They're going to do it.
Like, it's like there's a few lame things that I know are coming, and I'm going to hate them. Like Arya badass killing a White Walker with her new dagger. Like, I know it's coming, and I'm going to hate it so much, and it's going to ruin things for me, but it's just like, I think there's like a 75% chance they're going to kill the Night King, all the whites drop. Like, the battle droids, Anakin destroyed the control ship.
See,
and
now
the
that you said
drop.
that you hope they don't do it, they're gonna do it. We all know this. They're gonna do it. Dave and Dan listen to this podcast just to hear the shit you don't like, just so they can implement it.
Just so I can put it in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. Jon Snow sitting the Iron Throne would be also really lame. Or like Tyrion getting elected president would also be really lame.
Whoa! Well, don't give away the topic for the next video. Come on. I hope George watches season 7 and goes, "That's so fucking stupid. I'm just gonna make him Ned Stark's bastard. He was really Ned Stark's bastard the entire time, just as a fuck you. Just as a fuck you to Dave and Dan."
Well, I mean, see, we have to ask yourself, like this is the whole thing. Like, if you were George, like, what would you do? Like, if you were George, wouldn't you change the story to be different from Game of Thrones?
But at the same time, though, like, it's also a question of pride. Does he have the pride? Like why should I have to change just because they did it? You know?
Well, I mean, like why would you have pride in something that's predictable? Like, if let's say Game of Thrones has this predictable ending, like maybe Game of Thrones will have this incredible twist, and everyone will be like, "That's an incredible twist." I doubt that, but why would you have pride in a typical ending? Like,
maybe he's incredibly petty. I mean, like he thought of the ending first, and they went overboard in making it very predictable. Like, why should he have to change what they ruined? Is what I'm trying to say. But if I was George, would I change it? Yeah, I would change a couple of things. I would tweak a couple of things. To me, what I would do is I would make it seem like Jon really is the son of Rhaegar and Lyanna, and then just do a complete 180, and it's like, yeah, well, I hinted at it. Nah, fuck you. He's really Ned Stark's bastard.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I mean, I kind of think, like, if you're gonna do Jon being, the son of Rhaegar and Lyanna, like, you just make it one big wasted potential. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, it would have been great. He would have been the king that everyone rallied behind, but he died. Oh well. Like, that's more George's way. Uh-huh. Like his endings are always like, his endings are always negative or bittersweet, or he doesn't have very many happy endings. And when he does, like, it's, they're not that happy. It's usually the main characters die, and there's something sad about it. Like, that's how he likes having beautiful sad endings. So, I just don't see Jon Snow sitting the Iron Throne, or happy democracy, like, at the end
of the books.
Of the books.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I see people write this a lot. They're like, oh, well, George, if he changes what he told Dan and Dave, then he's a hack. I was like, is he?
How is he a hack? How would he be a hack?
like, isn't it a hack to like have some ending that you're just going to give to some TV producers and have them put it
Who
on
may or
screen
may not be
before you?
sexual harassers? Come on.
So
Allegedly.
it's yeah. So I don't know. I think another weird thing is so the show never kind of went away from Jon Snow being the main character or Dany being the main character, but the books have done that. The books, for a long time, like have been dealing with Dornish and Ironborn, like, and Cersei. Like, Dornish, Ironborn, and Cersei became the main characters, and so it's odd to think, like, in George's mind, like, okay, the story you've been writing for the last 17 years has been about Dornish, Ironborn, and Cersei, and yet everyone is still sitting there talking about Jon Snow, like everybody's waiting for that sequel to A Storm of Swords that's never coming. That because Jon Snow sat around not doing very much for A Dance with Dragons, and so did Dany. So I don't know. It's odd. It would be odd for him to do that. Like, it's strange when I read fans and how they dismiss A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, how they dismiss them as stories, and they really think that the story is about Jon being Azor Ahai and that's going to be the end all, and he's going to be riding dragons and stuff. And you're like then why did he write A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons? Like, oh well, that's just filler and world building.
Filler.
It's like the dude, like, why would a man spend 20 years of his life like making filler? Like, why spend 20 years of your
That's
life
such an insult,
like introducing
too. Like, filler.
like,
fuck, man.
Right, but I mean, a lot of people, like, I see it posted all the time, like, what's the point of the Ironborn, or what's the point of the Ironborn story, or what's the point of the Dornish story? Like, and then people are like, well, the point of the Dornish story is to be a letdown, to show, right, like, to show Quentyn being a fuck up, and to show Doran Martell, like, being an idiot. And you're like, a guy spent 20 years of his life, like, writing books where the central plot is Ironborn and Dornish. Why would he do that when he could have just jumped to Jon Snow, like, saving the day?
Well, to me, like, Feast for Crows is introducing other houses who also have a stake in the game. What the television show really fails at is making us want to root for someone other than the person we were supposed to root for in season 1. Like, in season 1, we're all rooting for Ned Stark, Bran, Jon Snow, all these, Dany, Stark and Targaryen. Yeah. They're like the main characters, and we're not supposed to root for the Lannisters or anybody else because the Lannisters are supposed to be the bad guys. What Feast for Crows kind of does is introduce these other characters, these other houses that you can kind of get behind. I mean, there are, for example, I'll give you a great example, like trying to think of a good series that you might know. Well, like in God damn it, I can't think of one. Like, what I'm trying to say here is that George is trying to make it, in my opinion, where you're not going to root for... You shouldn't root for, like, the generic good guy houses. You should have your own favorite houses that you could root for. Like, the Dornish, they do things their own way. They have, like, unique culture. They have unique characters that you could, get behind. Same with the Ironborn. The Ironborn, who I would say is my second favorite house. They have some cool characters who are interesting and who could win this game. And it's not all about Stark, Targaryen, and Lannister. It's about, Martells and Tyrells. They're in it too. And that's what the show kind of fails at. You're right. They do really point towards Jon being the main guy you should root for. And they barely give, Euron or Doran any screen time. So...
Yeah, I mean, it's with the show, like, just look at what they did with the Dornish. They introduced the Dornish, and then the Dornish died. And they had no impact on anything. Like, so why even have them? And so a lot of people see that like, oh, that's going to happen in the books too. That all of this stuff was introduced for no reason at all. Like, why would someone spend so many years of their life on an irrelevant, on a tangent, an irrelevant tangent? It doesn't make any sense. So, in my opinion, yeah, they're going to be really important. That he has a phased story where these first characters are introduced, and then those people die off, and then he has a second phase and a third phase, and then he's going to have these phased characters, So But some people don't believe that. They just like, well, all of that stuff with the Ironborn and the Dornish and Aegon, John Connington, they're just going to die off. That was just irrelevant middle stuff.
Also, what really irks me, because you've said this to me a couple of times. You've said to me, like, we should start covering Westworld, and I gotta sit down and get into it, because I did see the first 2 episodes, and it's good. It's getting there.
Yeah.
For me. But what kind of annoying is, didn't Westworld come out in like 2016?
Yes.
And they didn't even have a season this year. Like
That's
Game of
right.
Thrones has a season every year.
Yeah.
What kind of annoys me is, like, they could have done the same thing to Thrones. Like, they could have taken a year off.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, I mean, Westworld was kind of I think it was a surprise. Like, I think they were thinking maybe of only having 1 season. They got all these big budget people, and then it did pretty well. And so they're like, oh, we need some sort of Game of Thrones replacement. But at the same time, it was like so expensive to make that they couldn't possibly produce it. I see. And
because they're making Watchmen now. Like, Watchmen, right?
Oh God, really?
Yeah, they're making a Watchmen television series. I think it was announced like a while ago.
Oh man, that's gonna be crazy. That's gonna be crazy. I mean, like, and it's weird because it's weird because DC has like brought Watchmen. They're bringing Watchmen into the regular DC universe. Do you know about this?
I don't.
Oh God. So like forever. So they had Watchmen, right? And then years later, they did a Watchmen prequel comic book, and everyone's like, okay, well, we can tolerate that. So now they're like, we're going to do a Watchmen sequel. And the Watchmen sequel is going to merge that universe into the regular DC universe with Superman and Batman and the whole shebang. And like, just the concept, like, people are like, that sounds horrible. Now, it recently came out, and people are like, it's really well written. Like the first couple issues that have, or at least the first issue that I've read reviews of, and they're like, it's really good. But it's still like blasphemy, like making this weird sequel, and merging it in with the DC universe. It's crazy, but yeah.
Well, hopefully they don't fuck it up, and hopefully we're still gonna get those Game of Thrones spin-offs. I haven't really heard anything about those spin-offs.
Yeah, I mean, they have to, right? I mean, they're not going to not do it.
Well, Thrones is their highest rated shows, but even then, though, like, I still remember how, like, this was slightly, like, before me coming into HBO, The Sopranos. When The Sopranos went out, it was still pretty fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
So was The Wire, and they still haven't really followed up anything after those.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, they're definitely going to do at least one of those spin-offs. And then they've got Westworld, which... Yeah, I mean, the first season was pretty strong. It was a really fun experience watching it all, and then I guess he got.
I feel like it's more fun watching it with everybody, like everybody's theorizing at the same time.
It was that was the best part. That was the best part because actually, like, once they finished it, Westworld. I don't want to spoil anything, but it doesn't finish as strong as you think it will. Like, it finishes okay, but it's we're expecting a little more. Maybe we have really high expectations, but yeah.
We will talk about Westworld on the Game of Thrones podcast. Or, I'm thinking of renaming the Game of Thrones podcast to Drogo's Come. So we'll see what happens.
Maybe we'll have yes, Catelyn's Kiss / Drogo's Come.
Through the Moon Door. I'm still like a little onto Through the Moon Door. But guys, thank you so much for joining us on this after show of the Game of Thrones podcast. As always, we're available on SoundCloud and iTunes. Definitely check us there. Preston, do you have any videos upcoming that you can get us hyped for?
Let me think. I'm continuing to do Prepping for Winter through the Elaine chapters, and I'm just gonna be working on more Night's Watch stuff. I'm gonna do a video on the timing of when Jon Snow gets stabbed versus Stannis' battle. I'm going to do a video on Jon Snow and the Half Hand, and their journey. But I've been pretty busy this month, so it's been tough.
So we'll try to get some things out. Also, guys, if you are a fan of the Game of Thrones podcast, of course, we are going to have a special Christmas gift for you, a extra long episode. Preston, are you ready for this?
What's that?
we're going to do a special extra long episode, and we're going to discuss your fixing season 7 and some season 8 spoilers.
Oh. Ooh.
Where a certain character may or may not become president of Westeros. Oh god, that was so fucking stupid. I hope it's fake.
Okay.
Anyways, guys, we will see you next time. Thank you again so much for joining us, and yeah, have a good one.
All right.